going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 133 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. This is the Creators Series. Today I welcomed a New York native from Long Island. His name is Olivier Laurent. He's an artist, author, does a lot of different cool stuff, so we kind of dove into it today. Talked about his early influences, Jay-Z, Kanye West, a lot of G Unit members, and we kind of just talked about, how he eventually led into doing his own music, his newest album called Lavi Bon, the story behind that. He obviously put together a brand kind of surrounding that and another brand called the 726 Collective. And he's also doing some consulting with different artists and kind of just helping them launch their careers, which I think is very cool as well. I can just tell that Olivier has a great creative spirit and once again, a real great passion for what he does. And he said he has live shows coming up in the local area, working on another album soon. And we also talked about his audiobook as well that he recorded and kind of the process behind that, which I thought was very cool. And he also said he's open to doing another one of those as well. So definitely excited for him, what he's got going on. I appreciate him for reaching out to me. And I'm looking forward to connecting with him again very soon. So without further ado, let's get into this one. So welcome everyone to episode 133 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. This is the Creators Series, final episode of 2022 right here. Today's guest out of New York, this guy's an artist, he's an author. I from what I've seen on his Instagram, he does a lot of cool stuff. So I'm excited to talk to him today. Olivier Laurent is here. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. Like I said, thanks for getting in touch. I mean, you reached out to me and everything, and I thought this would be a great way to kind of, kick things off and, give you an opportunity to talk on this platform as well and just kind of spread what you do to a new audience. So for those that might not know you and what you do, just kind of give a brief introduction for the people.
Again, like he said, my name is Olivier Laurent. I'm from Long Island, New York, small place called Amityville, honestly. I'm a musician, and I just dropped an album called Lavi Bon. It's on all streaming platforms. I also am an author. I released an audiobook in 2021, entitled Eagles Fly Alone. Man, I'm just an artist looking just to express myself in the best way that I can, just to share my story.
Yeah, man.
Again, I appreciate you, giving me this chance to, share my story.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
100%. And I'm excited to have you here, like I said. And that's awesome that you're kind of just out here doing your thing, pushing your art to people and everything. And, when you reached out, I checked out your page. And I'm like, wow, I could tell he's kind of a jack of all trades a little bit. He's got a lot going on. So the first thing I want to touch on is kind of, you said you're from the Long Island area. So let's just say from the music standpoint, what has it been like trying to pursue, music from, where you're at? What's kind of the artist scene look like? Are you just kind of doing your own thing and not really paying attention to what everyone locally is doing, or how's that been going for you?
Long Island is a interesting place because a lot of the times people from like Brooklyn or Queens, even the Bronx, the idea is, from what I've known, is that they're looking to save enough money to purchase a home in Long Island. So they save up enough money, they go to Long Island, they raise their kids in Long Island to, And the thing about Long Island is that there still really isn't a hip hop, like a music scene out here.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? There's not a lot of media. Like, so if I was dropping an album, like there's no place in Long Island where I can go to and say, hey, I got this album coming out. I just want to be able to promote and, get it out there. So, but the thing about it is there's plenty of talent. There's plenty of talent all over. So it's definitely a struggle, but, to answer your other question about if I'm in tune with what's going on. Oh, yeah. I'm definitely in tune with, all the other artists that's making music out here. I listen, because at the end of the day, we're from the same place. Mm-hmm. So we kind of have probably similar stories. You're saying the same locations that I'm, privy of. So I'm definitely in tune with everything that's going on out here.
Yeah. I was going to say it's probably that relatability aspect as well. It's kind of like it's hard to kind of not notice, in a lot of ways, especially if there's a lot of different people out there. Because I have a friend, buddy from Queens. He raps and everything, so I kind of know that area a little bit. I don't know if I've talked to anyone from Brooklyn, but I obviously know like the hip hop history there and everything, and obviously very prevalent. It always has been, really. It just kind of has grown and evolved, and there's been more and more artists over the years. So I definitely think that's very important as well. And so does that kind of lead you to where, you've also been reaching out online and just trying to find different people to, promote what you're doing and just kind of, get yourself out there more to a wider audience as well?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like, things, social media kind of made the world smaller. I can reach out to somebody in Poland or Australia if I really in a second. They got my message. So there's people all over the world that love hip hop, love music, love the music that I make. So if I'm able to reach to them and expand my reach, why not?
Yeah, you got to use the resources that are prevalent. And I think a lot of people overlook how simple it can be to kind of make those connections. It's like all you really need sometimes is a phone. You know what I mean? You get an Instagram or a Twitter, and you can just see what you can do, see who you can connect with. So that's definitely very important. I do want to backtrack a little bit as far as like when you were growing up, you getting started, enjoying music, you're just a fan at this point. Who are you really listening to that's kind of like early inspirations, even up to now? Like artists, could be big artists, could be local artists. Who would you say kind of got you into wanting to be in music?
I would probably say Jay-Z was my first kind of big inspiration into music. But Lloyd Banks also, 50 Cent, Kanye West, that was kind of like my, first initial look into hip-hop, where I really started to fall in love with it. But then their lives were different from mine. Like 50 Cent, Jay-Z, they lived different than I grew up, So when a guy kind of like Drake or J. Cole comes out and they kind of have a more relatable story, then it starts to really branch where you're like, oh, you know what? I could do this. This is something that it makes sense. I can do this.
Yeah. So, I also find it interesting. I think I've talked about this on different episodes about like the contrast from the late 90s hip hop, early 2000s to like, I think Kanye was one of those first people that kind of embraced the different style as well. And then when it got to like the mixtape era, you had all those different people like J. Cole and all those people, and even Kendrick came out at that time. It's like all those people they weren't afraid to kind of tell their own stories and be themselves, and they were embraced by different fans and everything. I think a lot more people became a fan of hip hop at that point, and it's kind of just spread out into a bunch of different like branches and everything like that. So I think that's definitely something that I've observed, at least from my time being a fan of music as well. So definitely exciting and important stuff, and I think that's just going to keep going. I know a lot of people debate over like real hip hop, this and this. It's just like I do appreciate the different styles and everything. I think each each kind of style has its own place. You know what I mean? Its own like time and everything, and everyone can draw influences from different things, and it eventually leads them to where they're going as an artist. So I think that's all great stuff. So leading up to, let's just talk about your most recent project, the Lavi Bon project. Like what kind of went into that creatively as far as the stories you were going to tell, the production you chose on there? Talk about kind of the overall process and what is the story behind the album.
I mean, Lavi Bon's been kind of like almost 3 years in the making. It's just, I wanted to I feel like it's like the album I've been trying to make for so long. And like, as you grow as an artist, you might hear something in your ear, but actually getting it out how you hear it is the tough part. But as you mature and grow, you finally like, all right, I hear it and I can make this happen. So a lot of it is just, it's just about my story, about me kind of, figuring things out. The intro, I talk about, going through a rough patch in my life and thinking about killing myself at one point, and then, I start finding some success. Then I have a girl and like things are kind of going rocky in there. But at the end of the day, I made it out of this and life is still good, which is what Lavi Bon means. So
yeah. And it's kind of just, you got to put those real life stories in there for people as well. And I always say like you attract the people that have gone through what you've gone through as well, because you'll touch the people that you probably didn't even know existed. They might reach out to you and I'm sure you probably had that. You probably had some people reach out and say like, these certain songs affected them or like inspired them as well. That's kind of what it's all about at the end of the day anyway. So, and I saw you're doing like the merch and everything for it. So you kind of have like the brand kind of to go with it as well. And I think that's kind of a cool way to tell the story also. Talk about the 726 Collective. What is that all about? Because I saw that that's kind of like a big part of what you do as well, just from like looking at your pages and I think your YouTube as well. And I think you did like a documentary maybe?
I did
So,
a documentary.
yeah, so touch on that a bit. Like kind of what is the story with all that?
So a couple years back, I would say around like 2016, I started noticing that I started seeing this number all the time, 726, which just so happens to be my birthday. So I looked into the meaning of it, and it was all about kind of like not worrying too much about, material things and money, and just keep going on pursuing your goals. So I was like, I think that's a good message to kind of, live by.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided, like, you know what? I want this to be my brand. I want this to be my label. I want this to be everything that I stand for. When you think of me, this is what you think of. So from that moment on, it's just something I've kind of written. I've dropped projects literally on 726. Even my book, everything I try to drop within that time, just to kind of keep the branding going.
Yeah.
Even now, with that, I even manage artists, influencers. I have an influencer I actually manage. Her name is Sam Law. She has a show out on YouTube also. But it's the same message, just not worrying too much about material things, not worrying too much about money, just pursuing what God gave you, the purpose that God gave you in life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kind of just embracing your unique talent and everything. So I definitely love that. So talk about, being a consultant for people. What is that side of things like? Because obviously that's kind of wearing a different hat in a way. You kind of got to take the artist hat off a little bit and be on the lookout for someone else. So how has that been?
Honestly, I love it because sometimes, like, as an artist, like, I know myself, like, I like to reach out to other people for advice and, like, what they think I should do, because sometimes you're just too into yourself
Mm-hmm.
where you don't see certain things that other people could see. And so for me, I'm always just thinking different. I like to, like, a big part of me is like an album or anything being released. I like to find the most creative way of rolling this out, or how I can, draw interest in a certain way. And so if I see somebody with some type of talent and that they just need a certain way of, finding their audience in the most creative way possible, I want to definitely help them get to that point.
Mm-hmm. It's good to kind of uplift people as well in the space, because obviously I think the best attitude to have is when you're a creative, but you're not kind of selfish with your creativity. You also want to spread the wealth a little bit as far as just helping people out, guiding people, and kind of helping them avoid mistakes too. Because I know, like, when I have people come to me and they ask me, like, because I'm a producer as well. So, like, if I have someone ask me, like, a certain thing, if they're just starting out, I'll just tell them, like, well, here's what happened for me. I would probably just tend to go this route, but obviously our stories are totally different. But I just want them to avoid, all the things that I did wrong as well. So it's kind of so it's kind of just like you want to give them the guiding hand and also have them do their own thing as well and just kind of learn on the fly, and you see the growth and everything. And that's got to be, like you said, very fulfilling to watch happen, like, before your eyes. That's incredible, man. So congrats on that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So talk about the book as well. Obviously, what was that experience like? I saw that it was an audiobook. I don't know if you have, like, the published version of the book that people can buy. Just kind of talk about what that whole process was like, putting that together.
So the audiobook is out. The actual written format is not out. I will be putting that out. The idea of the audiobook was just, honestly, I felt like I was telling a certain story, and I kind of wanted to tell it a different way in a different format. So, I knew when you record music, it's not too much of a difference, because, you're just kind of, it's all about timing. I know how to record. I feel like I can execute this.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it'd be another creative way of, again, entering the market. And I feel like the audio book, like that sphere, that realm is not something that's really been touched on yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like that was something I could execute, and I think it came out great.
Yeah.
I think it's a great story. So
yeah. I had a buddy from Chicago. He's an artist as well, and he did a book, and he kind of did the same format. I think he said he studied some people and kind of got kind of advice from people on how to like structure the book and things like that. Were you doing that as well, just kind of studying other people's books and kind of just putting it together in your own way, or you kind of just dove right in doing your own thing?
I actually listened to rest in peace, the late Prodigy. I listened to his audio book, and I thought it was so well done. I liked how he told the story, and I was like, I think I could do this. I could definitely do this. So, but yeah, I definitely think he had a big inspiration on why I even pursued it in the first place.
I didn't know he had an audiobook. That sounds very intriguing, though.
Yeah, if you ever have
Mob Deep, talk about Mob Deep stories, probably. Yeah, that's cool.
I would check that part. Like he really brings you into like his work. He really does.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's almost, I think, even for like that, hearing the voice too, and hearing it as opposed to just reading it on the page. Because I know because I've always been a big like reader, even when I was a kid. So I used to like be great in reading class, reading books and everything, and I don't know. I prefer both, but like I feel like audiobook gives that whole different side to the story because you can hear it in the tone even of the voice of someone telling that story of how like they were impacted by that moment or this certain circumstance like just changed their whole life as opposed to just reading it. Like you're reading it, you can obviously kind of like envision how they intended to write it. But I think it's just like that whole new layer when you get to hear it. You know what I mean? Kind of just like music is when you get to hear these stories. It's just like it brings out a total different side to the experience for people. So do you think you're ever going to do that again as well? Like, would you do another book eventually or something along the lines of that?
Yeah. I think volume 2 is definitely going to come out. It's just kind of knowing where I want to go with it.
Yeah.
Like you said, I think you're just kind of appealing to more senses, like you it's cool that you're able to you create your own image of what you're reading. But you're not hearing it, you know. And I think the audiobook adds another layer to it. So
yeah, I definitely like that a lot. And I'm gonna have to check that book out, man. I'm gonna have to give it a listen for sure.
On Apple Books, Google.
Yeah, I saw Amazon too, so I'll probably tap in there. But as far as albums go as well, like music and stuff, have you thought about what's gonna be next? Maybe singles or something, or another album in the works, maybe.
Yeah, I plan on dropping a deluxe to this project that I just released. It's just more right now, just promoting. I feel like I put out a great project, so I want as many ears on it as possible. Definitely a way to continue growing my fan base, my audience. I think it's a great project in my opinion.
I think I heard this was probably a few weeks ago. I either saw a quote or heard someone say this, that a lot of people kind of, when they put the music out, they don't really post-release push anything, and they kind of just promote for a little bit, and then they just let it go. But it's like you can go so far with your music. People don't even know like the levels that you can push it to. So I think it's good to kind of continue to push the music, even if it's been out for a few months or even like a year, because there's just so many different opportunities out there.
There's so many people that haven't heard it still.
Yeah, exactly. So definitely.
I think you're talking about Tyler the Creator, I think.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah. And that's super important because it's like you want to. Art doesn't really have like an expiration date or like an age or anything. Obviously, if you as the creator have lived with it for a long time, like the listener still has only had it for a certain amount of time. So you want to keep like letting people know about it and things like that, and just find different ways to get it out there. So I definitely commend you for that as well. I think that's super important. So do you have like any live shows you're going to be doing with this album? Anything like that performance wise, or just a different way to kind of push the music out to people?
Yeah, I definitely have some shows, like certain circuits that I hit in the metropolitan area, like Queens, Brooklyn, some in Long Island, just to kind of get different ears on it. And like what I was saying before, it's all as many senses as I can kind of, you listen to the music, but just seeing me perform it, just having that full experience. Yeah, I'm definitely will be performing, and I'll be at a couple shows.
Awesome, man. Well, good luck on all that, man. because that's exciting stuff.
No,
So
thank you.
we're down to the last few questions here, and these are questions that I ask on every single episode, and they're more life-related questions. The first one is, if you could go back 10 years ago, maybe give yourself a piece of advice, or maybe not change anything at all, what do you think you would do?
10 years ago, I would tell myself just be unapologetic about everything, you know. I just think, people, like, if you have thoughts and feelings, like, those are valid feelings and thoughts, you know, and even if they were wrong, you know, people make mistakes, you know what I'm saying? As long as it's morally sound. But if you have these thoughts and things in mind, pursue it. Go for it, you know. At the end of the day, you live once. So.
Yeah. And I think the mistakes you end up learning from anyway over time as you get older too. So, love
exactly.
That. And let's say 10 years from now, if we flip it then, where do you think you envision yourself in your life and your career?
10 years from now, I picture, you know, I got a couple artists under my belt that I'm, you know, helping curate and nurture to, you know, become very successful. I plan on having several successful businesses, beautiful family. 10 years, I see some beautiful things in my life. So, you know,
you're gonna reach that prosperous level, man. I'm sure of it, 100%. So, do you have any final words of wisdom today for the listeners?
Final words of wisdom. I think at the end of the day, man, like I say before, just, you know, don't worry too much about the money. Don't worry too much about material things, and just live in your journey. That's it. You know, those who support you are those who support you. They don't support you. Nothing wrong with it. That's fine. But, you know, I'm all about those who are for me, not who are against me.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself, man. Seems like a great way to kind of end the year off here on this podcast. And once again, man, I appreciate the time and thanks so much. And I look forward to seeing what else you can do, because I'm going to be following up on what you're doing and keeping an eye out. So congrats, man.
No, I appreciate you giving me a platform, man. I appreciate you taking out the time, brother.
I almost started recording the normal outro, and then I caught myself because we will not be back next week. Next week is the holiday week that I usually take the break, and this was indeed the last episode of 2022. So I really just want to thank everyone for sticking with me the last couple years. This was the second full year of doing this podcast, and I really hope you guys, you know, took value from this, took something away from it. No matter how many episodes you ended up listening to, even if this was the first one you tuned into all year, just know you're appreciated, and I'm looking forward to just continuing to get new great guests on the show. We're coming back strong for 2023. I'm working behind the scenes on some stuff that's hopefully gonna land and really stick with you guys, and looking forward to growing this thing further and just continuing to connect with great individuals all over the world. So once again, I want to say thanks for listening, and we will see you in a couple weeks to kick off 2023 with a brand new podcast episode. So until then, thanks everyone, and we'll see you then.